What is going on? We are excited. Round one is in the books. My name is Mike Tuck at Mike Tuck Sports. That is Eric Lopez at Eric Lopez Elo. Elo, what an amazing first round we just witnessed. A lot of surprises, I will say, in my mock draft. The clumsiness and kind of the uncertainty going in led to probably my lowest pick total correct. I believe I only had 24 of the 32 players actually drafted in the first round. A lot of surprises snuck their way into the first round. But before we analyze the whole draft, let's start at the top. Quarterbacks, 4 of them go in the first round of this draft. We'll start with the number 1 pick. No surprise there with Joe Burrow. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious move there. I mean, I always get annoyed when the team has that pick. Everybody knows it's the pick, and they still take their sweet time to make the pick. That's the only part, because these teams would just go ahead and hand over the pick like we would do in fantasy football. These drafts wouldn't be taking 4 hours. That's really, you know what I mean? That would save us some time. But look, it's the right move for the Bengals. I think he's a safe pick. I think he could be a combination somewhere between a Ryan Tannehill, Tony Romo, maybe with some upside. Now it's up to the Bengals, to me, to provide him with talent around them.
Yeah, it's a wide range. And I know it's a small sample size, but it is the most unbelievable sample size we have seen in the history of college football. It is undoubtedly, by any measure, the greatest college football season anyone has ever had before. The most touchdowns thrown, an undefeated season, a Heisman Trophy winning season. He was almost pitch perfect all year long. He deserved to go number 1. I was a little bit skeptical, like most, right? Because you saw a smaller sample size on what he was able to do, but no doubt he deserved to go number 1 to Cincinnati. I think they got themselves a real winner. What they do now with Andy Dalton strikes me as pretty curious with them. The next drama was to come. We saw 2, we saw 3, we saw 4. No trades, no calls reportedly either to the Giants or the Lions. Miami sits at 5. You have your Dolphins hat on. What were you thinking as you were waiting for the commissioner to announce the pick?
That's what I'm thinking there. 13. I'm like, take him. Take Tua. This is the chance. We mentioned this on our preview show. No need to move up if you wanted to take the quarterback. No need. And I think we were proven correct on that big time. And I think that's kind of what happened with Detroit. I don't think teams just were not interested in moving up. So the ball's on the Dolphins, but it seemed like they were very confident. It turns out all the speculation we were hearing during the week, I think it was just kind of trying to disguise things. And I think clearly they took Tua. I think even read they're already come to an agreement on a deal. I'm excited about the pick, obviously. I shared this story on Twitter. I was at the Louisville game when he made his first start in the camping world a couple years ago. And, Ryan Murphy was with me, who I work with at Black and Gold and Red, covers UCF. He was with me at the game. And I said, Tua that was his first start. He had a great game. And I said at that time, that's the guy. That's the guy that the Dolphins need to get. I was sold from that point on. And our friend, Andrea Adelson from ESPN, tweeted out tonight when I posted that tweet the same thing. And she said, I went to high school with her in Miami-Killian High School. And she said the same thing. She thought that the same night, she thought the same thing. And I know there's concerns, Mike, but I'll read you what she tweeted out about Tua that I think kind of hits home here. She tweeted, Tua is one of the most impressive quarterbacks I've ever seen in person. Incredible touch. He's tough. He's a great leader. Is the pick a risk? Absolutely, it's a risk. But you don't win championships playing it safe. I love this pick. 100% dead on. 100% dead on, in my opinion there, Mike. That's, to me, I applaud the Dolphins for making that pick, not being scared off. Don't get cute. Take the guy. And honestly, Mike, this might be the most exciting pick in Dolphin history in a while here, maybe in our era here. I mean, Marino is 83. Can you name me a more exciting time where the Dolphin fans as a whole are excited about a pick that they are right now with Tua?
There hasn't been, certainly in the last 20 years. And now he will become, at some point, you would think this upcoming season, the 22nd different quarterback that started since Dan Marino retired. It won't be 13, obviously. Tua, of course, with nothing but praise for Dan Marino, calling him the greatest of all time and showing respect there. 3 belongs to Josh Rosen. You have 12 he wore in high school. Can't wear that because obviously that's Bob Greasy's retired number. I have a feeling, this is just a hunch, I'm going to say it's going to be number 8 like another lefty, Steve Young. My worry with Tua, actually, doesn't stem anything. Because one thing I would disagree with and Andrea on, I don't think it's a risk. I think that's the most overblown thing. There has not been one doctor since February when we got another diagnosis, another update on his health status that has said anything negative. Not one doctor who has worked with him or observed what he is going through has suggested that there's any reason at all that there's going to be a repeat injury, that the joints are weakened, or somehow he's going to be more susceptible to injury. There's nothing chronic about this. There is no reason to fear anything. He's 100% healthy now. The talk of redshirting from the upcoming year is almost laughable to me. Why? He's healthy. If he can beat Ryan Fitzpatrick for the job, he should start right away. My big concern with him is he's not physically big. He is only 6 feet tall. I know we've seen others succeed. It doesn't mean that is the prototype, right? He's not the prototype. And he does, to me, try to hit a home run. He's going to have to learn and be coached to take singles and doubles. He wants to go for the gusto far too often. Look, he's fantastic in so many areas. I think he can be coached out of those small things. But
that's the thing. You got to coach him up. You got to coach him up. The one thing I disagree with you about, he has to, he should start if he beats out Fitzpatrick. I wouldn't just throw him into the Wolves if you don't have a good line around him. And, we'll get into that later, obviously, because the Dolphins have 3 picks. But I think that's something that's very important is, we said, I think Andrew Luck's kind of the poster child for this. If you don't protect your quarterback, I don't care how tall he is, I don't care what his injury status is, he could be the healthiest guy ever. If he doesn't get protected, if he gets taken down consistently, he's not going to last. So
I wasn't sure that the Chargers would be all in on Justin Herbert, but I don't know if it was because of the Tua pick. We'll never really know for sure because that's unlikely they're ever going to tell us. But they do go with Herbert at 6. That results in no slide for him because there wasn't really another team out there looking for a quarterback, as we saw, as we'll get to Jordan Love momentarily. It's interesting because now for the second consecutive time, Tyrod Taylor's in a situation where he is the starter going in with Baker Mayfield, of course, in Cleveland before that. He got exit stage right out of Buffalo in favor of Josh Allen in a first-round pick. So here we go again for Tyrod Taylor. I suspect that Herbert has enough experience. He will win this job. If he's not starting game 1, he'll start within the first month for the Chargers next season.
I like Herbert in this spot with the Chargers. And the reason I do is I don't think there's going to be a ton of pressure. The Chargers don't have fans, as we saw in the coverage. I think they were the only team that in the background couldn't fill out the entire box.
The Raiders didn't either. Yeah, no, I noticed that too.
I didn't realize the video, but they haven't.
No one's in Las Vegas yet, right?
They're not. I don't know what the Charger excuse is. But I think with his personality, being a low-key guy, I think the Chargers is a good fit. I'm going to give you credit. You mentioned this in our preview show. They got a good roster. Why do you think they like Tyrod Taylor that much? To the point where why not take a shot at a Cam Newton who a year rental to you? You brought this up, so I'm giving you credit for this. And make a run next year and don't rush Justin Herbert to the field. You don't have to play him right now. Maybe he turns out to be better than we think and he's ready to go. But in the meantime, why Tyrod Taylor? That seems like why not go get a Cam Newton for a year, have him compete, see what happens, and if Cam Newton falters, then you go to your backup. It's interesting to see if they stick to that plan or not.
It'll be fascinating where Cam Newton ends up right now because there is not an obvious destination. Best fit is the one I don't think it will be in New England because look, Cam's a great guy. I have nothing against Cam at all, but he's not necessarily a Belichick Patriots way kind of guy. It'll be.
Well, I don't even think it's that. I think it's more about economics, and I think Bill doesn't want to spend money on the quarterback position. I think he generally wants to build up this. No, I'm sorry. I don't think he wants. I think he wants to.
Like Brady didn't break the bank, but they were paying him over $20 million every year.
Right, but I think he didn't want. If you're going to pay Cam, how much do you think Cam Newton would cost him right now?
I think 20. I don't think he's going to get 30 clearly in this market.
Right. But if you're doing that, then why didn't? If you're doing that, if you're Belichick, then you should have why not just keep Brady for another year? If you were to do that, that's why I don't believe he's going to do it. I just think he's going to go with. I'm not necessarily saying Stidham's going to be the guy. In fact, he might take a guy later in this draft. Or a Winston would be making more sense because I think you can get Winston cheaper, perhaps, But I don't
see Winston getting along with Belichick at all. I
know.
know he's your boy, but Winston's going to end up taking – and Winston would be more apt, I think, to take a backup job somewhere where –
Pittsburgh, right? Would you think Pittsburgh maybe? Something like that?
There's a variety of teams you could name.
Okay.
I mean, Pittsburgh maybe is one of them. They already have 2 quarterbacks in the house there, but we saw last year there's no reason to be optimistic about either one of those guys.
Cam might be one of those guys that may just be better off waiting until a guy gets hurt.
Well, and I think that's why he's out there right now. Is there's no team that was in a rush because of the draft and they wanted to see it. Maybe if the Chargers don't take Herbert, maybe they're more interested in Cam. We'll never know. Speaking of not knowing what a quarterback situation is, the Green Bay Packers decided to move up in the draft, trading with the Dolphins to do so, and they nabbed Jordan Love, the Utah State quarterback. What are your thoughts?
We talked about this in our previous show. Again, this is why you need to be watching our shows, folks, because we kind of tell you what could happen before it happens. 15 years ago, Aaron Rodgers drops to them in the 20s. They take him. Oh, hey, Brett Favre's still there. Now you get the heir apparent. Here we are, history repeating itself 15 years ago. Do I like the pick? No, but I'm not a Jordan Love guy either. And the weird thing about that one, if you're the Packers, who were you concerned about that was going to move up to get Jordan Love at that point? Like, why make that move to go up to get him that point? And, and it's interesting seeing some of the comments, now this is going to be a drama. This is going to be a big story. This is going to be a hot debate on all the debate shows with Aaron Rodgers and how much he has left. And is this a slap in the face? And, you mentioned this too in the previous show. The Packers have a lot of holes because you thought they wouldn't do it because you thought they needed to fill a lot of holes. But clearly they feel that Jordan Love put him on the bench for a couple of years and be the heir apparent.
Yeah, there's not going to be a rush with Jordan Love, which I think is a good thing. I think he actually needs a lot of coaching. I think, like everyone says, the raw talent is there, the raw skills are there, but I do think he's a guy that needs a lot of coaching. It's going to be very interesting what they do from here forward to build the rest of the roster around Aaron Rodgers. Aaron's not exactly known to be the warmest individual. He certainly got the cold shoulder when he was drafted into Green Bay, so turnabout's fair play in this situation. The one thing I want to emphasize, though, as you were talking, you're right. The teams that picked directly behind Miami probably weren't looking for a backup quarterback in Love, but that doesn't mean that somebody else wasn't looking to move up. A team that I anticipated potentially moving up into the first round was the Indianapolis Colts to get a guy like Jordan Love. So maybe it was them. For the same reason, Tampa Bay moved up one spot to select a player that San Francisco was unlikely to take. My guess is there was another team or teams, and our Dolphins might have been one of those teams that was interested in moving up to that 13th spot for Wirfs as well. So I would think that was probably the case. Maybe you're playing against nobody, but you're made to think you are playing against somebody. I do think, though, that if you're a Packers fan, you're disappointed because you made it to the NFC Championship game. You didn't make your team any better going into next season.
Well, let me defend the Packers and some of these teams when we discuss this first round. This is just the first round.
Of course.
There's still 6 rounds to go. Who's to say the Packers don't get players, a receiver in the second or third round? Because this is a deep draft for receivers, right? And address their needs later. And then we look at it like, oh, okay, so while I agree with you, I would not have taken Love. I would have taken a position that you to help your team now because you're trying to win now with Aaron Rodgers. That should be your agenda. At the same time, I'm not going to put the hammer down just yet. I want to wait to see how the complete draft before the final conclusion. Because maybe they take some receivers later on, for example, to give Aaron Rodgers some help that will say, okay, that makes sense. That's what they're looking for. But I would not have done it personally because I think Rodgers still has a lot of football left. But hey, they differ. But hey, we're going to have a lot of nice storylines with that one.
All right, let's take a look at the board now, Elo. Quarterbacks we wanted to get off the top, but let's look at the top 10. So I'm going to look at the top 10 here up on the board. What did you like? What stood out to you other than Miami and the quarterbacks, Burrow and Herbert that we already talked about?
Isaiah Simmons dropping to Arizona's lap at unbelievable. I mean, to get, I think, arguably the second best defensive player in this draft. I love the kid. And to put him in Arizona, I think he's a good fit there. And by the way, Cliff Kingsbury, props to you, brother. I mean, with that house place you're staying at, holy smokes.
Why is it on in the middle of the afternoon, though?
I think he's just showing off, man. He's just reminding people I'm not in Lubbock anymore. And but I love Simmons. I love Simmons dropping to 8 for Arizona. I think he had a tremendous offseason, getting DeAndre Hopkins to help the offense there for Kyler Murray, adding Isaiah Simmons to the defensive side of the football. I like the direction that the Arizona Cardinals are going here. That was my to me great value and great fortune for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, look, Chase Young, I think, is the best player in this draft. And
Yeah.
much like Bosa last year, I think Washington reaps the benefit of a team needing a quarterback in front of them, and that's not a knock on Burrow. I'll go one ahead of you. Simmons at that point's great, but Derek Brown to me was the third best player in this draft, and I think that's a fantastic fit. He inserts himself immediately as a starter. He's a character guy. He's a guy that's going to I think you build inside out. And so when you bring in a Derek Brown, you get penetration, you get tackles for losses, you get sacks, you get a great run defender. You get a guy that is going to be a leader on your football team. So I love that pick. What pick to you stood out as perhaps disappointing in the top 10?
Oh, well, there's two to me. The Giants taking your boy, Andrew Thomas, who you were convinced earlier this week, you thought that was a guy the Dolphins might take.
He's the best left tackle in this draft.
Did you think?
I have no issue with it because and I think it's a little bit overplayed protecting the blind side of a quarterback because, quite frankly, if you can see them coming and they're still coming, they're going to hit you. It's going to hurt. But the blind side for Daniel Jones is the left side. Wills and Wirfs are each right tackles. Becton, to me, is still a little raw. I think he's got great potential, still a little raw. To me, Thomas is the most polished. Maybe I know Jeremiah and Kuiper weren't as high about upside, but he's going to come in right away and protect Daniel Jones' blind side. So I'm good with that pick. But I understand where you're coming from.
And it's not. I mean, it's the second one. I mean, I'll get to the one I don't like even more. But do you think, because you were kind of thinking the Dolphins might go in that direction, do you think had the Giants not taken Thomas, the Dolphins would have considered him at 5, or do you think now, no matter what, it was going to be Tua?
I think it's easy to say it was going to be Tua, but I do think that Tua Tagovailoa was going to be the pick.
Okay.
Honestly, the top 10, I think teams did very well for themselves. You can put them in different orders. The one guy that does not rank in my top 10 for sure, though, is Justin Herbert. I just think it's overdrafting because of the quarterback position, simply put.
Do you like C.J. Henderson 9 to Jacksonville, or do you think that was too early? I mean, I know the Jaguars have a lot of needs. Just kind of feels weird that they went that direction that early.
I mean, I think a lot of people wanted Jacksonville to trade down. I thought the Jaguars were in a good spot to trade down. But, again, you need a dance partner. And we never know this stuff for sure. We can yell all we want and we can type on a keyboard and Twitter and complain they should have traded down. I'm all for saying they could have, should have, would have, but they didn't. And I don't know that they weren't getting any calls. Maybe they were getting terrible offers. But C.J. Henderson's a really good player. Some people would argue the best corner in this draft. A lot of people reportedly had him number 1 on their board as the best cover corner. And look, Okudah, as good as he is, it's really just 1 year on tape. There's not a whole lot of experience there to go off of, whereas Henderson, it's a little bit more repetition. Let's look at the next 10. So let's go 11 through 20 now on the board. What stands out to you that you liked?
Well, I liked, there's some good picks here. And that's interesting, by the way. The first 10 picks, there was no trades. First time since 2015, there was no trades in the top 10. I wonder if some teams kind of early in the draft just were kind of playing it safe, the technology. And then as things were going well, I think we saw some action on the back end. And, to me, it's interesting. The Bucs moving up a pick to get Wirfs. I like the move for both sides there. I like the Niners dropping the spot to get Kinlaw, the South Carolina kid, defensive tackle, kind of maybe replace Buckner in the deal there. But I like the Bucs, and we addressed this. They needed offensive line help to protect Tom Brady, and they move up a spot to get Wirfs at 13. I think is great value. I like that swap for both teams, actually.
You know what's interesting to me? What I like, to me, that's a win-win. I mean, you have to win now with Tampa. Wirfs is ready to go. He could play left or right tackle. I believe he'll play right tackle, his more comfortable spot for Tampa Bay. Kinlaw is ready to go. He is a man ready to play and fit into that defensive line rotation in San Francisco. Both teams got what they wanted out of that deal. The big winner to me is a top 5 player in this draft, in my opinion, Jerry Jeudy falling to 15 for Denver. You know, Drew Lock, I'm not sure he's going to make it, but having Cortland Sutton and having Jerry Jeudy to throw to, not going to hurt his chances. Plus, they had Melvin Gordon to what was already a strong backfield. They spent a first-round pick on Noah Fant. You can't say they're not trying to surround him with talent. On the other hand, Elo, and I'll open the floor to you next after I react here, you sometimes will look back at drafts, right? And we've been doing that all week. If you've been watching ESPN, they keep showing old first rounds and stuff like that. And it's always amusing going, wow, like we thought maybe that was good and it turned out to be awful, right? You've seen a lot of that. I will not be surprised if we look back at this top 10 or this 10 through 20 and go, oh my gosh, there were some really bad picks. I really, I mean, Becton, I'm not sure. I know a lot of people had him high. I'm not sure. Ruggs, I know you and consensus has him high. I get it. I'm swimming upstream, but you look at his last 2 years put together, that's basically what a great college wide receiver season would look like. He was like the number 3 option in Alabama. I know Alabama's got talent, but we're doing a lot of projecting on a guy to take him as the first receiver in this class. I'm sorry, that's way too high. Austin Jackson to Miami, young. He's 20 years old, so there's upside there. I think he's extremely athletic, but I thought he would be a guy that would fall into the second round. So I think Miami reached. He may not even be ready on a team that doesn't have a left tackle to play for them this upcoming season. So that's iffy. Arnett, a guy that I thought was going to be a third-round pick.
Yeah.
Oakland on both, and I know we talked about how Mayock and Gruden do it their way on our first one. Boy, did they do it their way in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. The Arnett pick is a head scratcher, and I like Ruggs. I'm fascinated to hear why they liked Ruggs over Jeudy. That's really, if you're taking the receiver, I would argue you took the wrong Alabama receiver. Judy's the best receiver. That one surprises me a little bit. I want to hear Mayock's deal on that one, though. I'm wondering if they like Ruggs' special teams, maybe value as well as receiving. I don't know. I'm with you on the Arnett pick. I don't get the Jets with Beckham.
Elo, I'm not selecting special teamers in the first round.
No, I'm trying to figure out what is it they saw they like Ruggs better than Jeudy, because I saw both in person and I'm seeing them on TV. Judy's the better player, better receiver. I don't know why.
But I mean I don't even have him in my top 5. I barely have Ruggs in my top 10, and
I would have taken Jeudy and Lamb should have gone over him for sure, and you can make a case for Justin Jefferson if you want to go that direction. I wouldn't have argued. But I don't know what he was thinking. The Becton to the Jets thing. Now, obviously, the argument they're going to make is they wanted to protect Sam Darnold and the offensive line. But my counter is, okay, great. Well, who's he going to throw the football to? So
deep receiver draft again. It's chicken or egg, and it was this way for a few of these teams in this draft. If we're being honest about it, and you would expect the Jets maybe now in the second round to come back and go receiver. So maybe they thought, hey, Becton's the best chance to be a stalwart left tackle. Receivers a little bit deeper, we'll come back and get it. Only time's going to tell if it's going to work, but I can respect that you had to do one or the other, right? You can't fill every need with one pick.
No, you're right. The Dolphin one, I agree with you. I was a little surprised by that. I guess, do you think it was one of those things where maybe the guy they wanted was not there and they just kind of decided, hey, we're just going to, go big here because we have 3 first-round picks to play with. So sometimes teams when they have multiple picks tend to be maybe gamble on one of them.
No, I mean, I think that there's a good chance they loved him. The kid has special attributes. I just don't think the guy we saw in the field this past year is necessarily the guy that should be worth the 18th pick in the draft. Now, I will say this much. He's got 2 excellent years, all at left tackle, starting for USC. He played his freshman year every game as a backup. So he's got a lot of experience, even though he's only 20 years old. He's extremely athletic. I think he needs to get stronger, but he did throw up 27 reps. It's not like he threw up 16 reps at the bench press at the combine. So I do think that he's a piece of clay they can mold. And Miami is not in position to win next year, right? We don't even know if any of their first 3 picks are going to start game 1. And that's kind of insane to think about for a team with that many needs. But you could argue that Jackson's not ready to start. Tua may not start right away. They might just say Fitzpatrick experience. Let's throw him out there first. And then the same thing with their final pick of the first round. They're clearly not going to start him at corner with the one position on Miami's team that is solidified. So that will be interesting. But I would say in 5 years, let's look back at this 10 through 20 and see if it turned out to be a disaster, because I could see where that could end up being the case. All right, what'd you like from 21? Let's just go all the way through the end of the first round here. What'd you like?
I like Justin Jefferson to the Vikings. I thought the Eagles should have taken him. I thought that was a no-brainer. I think Justin Jefferson can be a better version of Alshon Jeffrey, or at least equal to. And instead, I feel like the Eagles. I'm surprised they passed on a good target. Really liked him at LSU. I think that's a great pick for the Vikings there.
Let me just jump in on that and say, to me, Justin Jefferson, a positive comp. He reminds me a little bit of Keenan Allen, kind of angular, lanky, not quite A.J. Green, but Keenan Allen, kind of a smaller version of that. Excellent route runner. I think there's a lot to like there. I like him better than Reagor. Reagor is more explosive, though. Like, if you're looking for pop plays, you're looking for wow plays, I think Reagor is clearly the better athlete. I just think Jefferson, stickier hands and better route runner. So I would agree with you. I don't think that Philadelphia should be filleted over it, but I would have gone Jefferson over Reagor, too.
Yeah, but I like the Jefferson pick. I like Patrick Queen to Baltimore, linebacker, inside linebacker, Ravens linebacker defense there. I think those are the two. And then the Chiefs, man, we talked about, hey, maybe they're a team that goes after Leonard Fournette to fill the running back position via trade. Instead, they said, no, we're going to go with the other LSU running back that's in this draft, and Edwards-Helaire, who can catch and run. And while maybe you could argue he's not the best running back in this draft, he might be the best fit for this Chiefs offense.
Yeah, and you know what? He might be the best running back in this draft. He's a little bit like Herbert, or not Herbert, but like Burrow in that a little bit Jonathan lately. Like, where did this come from? But man, he was outstanding this year in all phases for them. Isaiah Wilson to Tennessee, to me, was one of the more predictable. I mean, they fill the right tackle void that they lose Conklin in free agency. So to me, that stood out. Here's something that stood out to me. The bottom 12 picks here, 21 through 32. The positions that are not as prioritized, right? We think of safety, middle linebackers, right? No safeties in a very deep and talented safety class, unless we count Isaiah Simmons, which I guess we can count Isaiah Simmons. 3 linebackers in this area. And I love all 3. I think you won't hear one person say a bad word about Ken Murray. He is all over the field. I think he's going to be fantastic. I think the Chargers traded up because I'm telling you, I think that New Orleans had it hot for him. I think that's
up a lot.
They did. Well, they jumped a lot, though. They jumped up from early there in mid-third, second round, so they had to give up the third-round pick to get him. Good trade for New England. I'm not arguing with you, but I like Murray a lot. I'm not as big on Queen. Extremely athletic, but a little bit undersized, almost more safety than linebacker to me at this point. But I'm a huge, enormous fan of Jordan Brooks. In fact, a need for Green Bay middle linebacker. I won't be surprised the next couple of years if we're watching and going, oh my gosh, the Packers would have loved to have had Jordan Brooks in the middle of their defense right now. So those are some of the positives that stood out to me. What about maybe a pick that surprised you?
That's a good point about Brooks with Green Bay. That would have made some sense there. I don't know. The Reagor pick surprised me a little bit there to Philly. San Francisco, interesting choice going with Alley-Oop, the Arizona State receiver. The Dolphins, by the way, first of all, whoever is in charge of the Dolphins equipment and making the back of the jersey last names, boy, good luck. Good luck next year. I mean, the Dolphins might be a spelling bee team next year.
Good luck to the radio team calling their games.
Oh, my Jimmy Cephalo. Oh, boy. Yeah.
Look, I'll tell you what. I'm surprised. I had him as a second-round pick. I had him lower. But because there's a lot of really good corners out there. The corners were a mixed bag, as you've heard a lot of experts talk about. He's the great example of, hey, if you're a receiver and you can't catch the ball, we're going to move you to defense, because that's his issue. And he still can't catch it on defense. Only 1 interception in his college career. But as they profiled, I mean, he's an incredible athlete, a great cover guy. I think that Miami plays him in the slot. I don't think it means that they don't draft a safety, but now that Bobby McCain could stay at safety, it does make it a little bit easier for them going forward. And this is clearly, again, corner was the strength of the Dolphins team. You would agree right now with their top two. After that, they don't have much. Tankersley is still a bit of a project, but then it's a bunch of undrafted guys at corner. It's going to be the biggest strength of this team. I mean, we might be talking in 2 years about it being the best trio of corners in the entire league. So I'm all for drafting the best player. It's not to me who I would have taken, but clearly it was.
Who would you have taken there?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, a trade back would have been a fantastic option for Miami. Look, I love several of the safeties. Grant Delpit's my favorite.
Well, see, that's who I wanted them to take. But I wonder if they felt that, you know what, the safeties weren't going. They weren't going. Yeah. And maybe they feel they can get a safety in the next round. And maybe that's what they're waiting on. I'm wondering if that influenced it, whereas maybe if a safety would have gone before this pick, that would have forced the issue. Because I was with you. I thought Delpit or McKinney, watching it live, I thought that was the direction they were going. I don't hate the pick with Noah because I think he's very talented. I think some of the I forget which one it was, said that he might even be the third best cornerback of potential in this draft, right? I mean, you can agree to disagree, but he has upside. You mentioned that. And in today's NFL, you can never have enough cornerbacks, right? Because teams are going 3 wide, 4 wide. So I don't hate the pick, but I was surprised they didn't go for a Delpit, who I love a lot. And it's interesting that he dropped out of the first round. We would suggest the injuries maybe cost him the first round. And Winfield, none of those guys went. That surprised me. I don't know if it's a negative or not, but it surprised me because I think I like those guys.
Yeah, and the Miami could circle back around. They have a couple picks in the second round. They added one in the fourth round with this trade down, so safety I think still could be in play. But as I've continued to preach, best player available. Miami doesn't have a position on their team they can't get better at, and they certainly attacked a position that they could get a lot better at, left tackle. And then they went, obviously, with a corner who should be able to contribute right away for the Dolphins. Big picture, we'll give a recap. We'll have another video up once the draft is over and give our thoughts on that. And we're going to do some spin-offs as well because why not? This is fun to do. What did you think of the coverage tonight, Elo?
I like the coverage. Consider, first of all, what they had to deal with. I like the draft picks. And, I like the coverage. It was basic, but I like that. I don't think you have to go over jump the moon to do all these the draft coverage. I don't think you need all the extra interviews. I thought they had too many people there. Like, I would have taken out maybe a Booger McFarland and Michael Irvin and call it a day. And I'm talking about the ESPN version. From that standpoint.
You know what, though? I think they did a really good job, though, of utilizing them when it was most important to utilize them. When there was a receiver pick, they went to Irvin. When there was a down lineman picked,
yeah.
And then for the rest of it, they used their 3 primary analysts, their draft analysts to analyze the draft. I thought for it being the way it was set up, first of all, I thought Trey Wingo was tremendous. That is a lot of heavy lifting for him to do tonight. I thought he was incredible in his performance of orchestrating it all. It really wasn't until the 23rd pick where there was even a little bit of a mix-up, and he apologized for that. I think the NFL did a great job of both raising money for what's going on with COVID-19 and the way they honored our first responders and our healthcare people for the jobs that they're doing and those that have lost loved ones during this time. I thought all of that put together in the beginning was tremendous.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great overall. Roger Goodell was kind of goofy. I think he was trying to be funny, but it didn't come off well.
I know I'm kind of in the minority because it's easy to hate always the commissioner. I like Roger Goodell. I think he's.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I give him a lot of credit for making this happen.
Yeah, I think he tried to have fun with it. Look, they came up with the idea of boo me and with Bud Light. The dude gets it. He sees the big picture. He's been more than happy, I've argued through the years, being the piñata for the owners. He is the one that takes all the bullets for them for all these decisions and incorrect decisions and everything else that the league has made through the years. He's more than happy that $30 million a year makes it a lot easier, but he is the piñata, and he plays that role very well. Whether or not we like him as a fan base or not, I think he does a good job, and I think he means well.
No, I don't mind him at all. And I think he's done a great job handling this NFL offseason. With all the scrutiny, to go ahead. Yes, we're going to do this draft, even though there was GMs that were complaining about it. Oh, what's going to happen? We're going to have glitches. What are this? Not a peep. Everything went well that we know of, and I think he deserves a ton of credit how he's handled the free agent market in this draft. I think it's been great. I think a lot of people enjoyed it. The coverage was good. It's ironic because it was a kind of a vanilla draft. There wasn't a lot of movement, and I wonder too the setup. You can't go back and forth, right? Because you're all in different rooms. These guys haven't worked together, so you're kind of hesitant to have a debate. Like, oh, I don't know about that guy. There was really no debating, and maybe I think they played it conservative.
I do agree with you. It's hard, and we've done this before because we've been in radio for so long. We talk to people all the time on a phone line, or we've done remote shows that we're away from somebody. And one of the issues is oftentimes communication, and it's hard to have that back and forth the way you want it exactly. So they had to be very judicious in how they doled out who was going to give an opinion and when they were going to give it. And I think over the course of the night, as I said, Trey Wingo did an excellent job being captain of the ship. He moved everything along. He made sure to reference who he was going to by name. I'm sure the producers were in people's ears as well. Hey, we're going to come to you next. So I think they did an excellent job. I would disagree a little bit and say the draft heated up. Once we got
back in
top 10, we did have some trades go down, and really without a hitch. And I think we both kind of said before, for the same reason we said, of course you should have the draft, is it's not that hard. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to pick a phone call up, and you're going to answer it, and you're going to say we want to move, and then you're going to hang up, and you're going to wait for it. Nothing changes. It's just you're not having a whole team of people around you. You're going to be communicating with the same way you would communicate with others. And I thought, like you said, it went off without a hitch. Real quick before we call this one a wrap, Elo, what are you looking forward to tomorrow in day second and third round?
I mean, that's what's so beauty about this. There's still so much interesting intrigue, right? With Hilaire going in the last pick now, do we see a run of running backs? I know Mel Kiper said on the broadcast he thinks there'll be 6-7 running backs drafted here in the next 2 rounds. We'll see if that's true. Who goes where? New England, they got a lot of picks. What do they do? Do they take a quarterback? A lot of people trying to put the whole Nick Saban, Bill Belichick tree there, with theories that they might take a Jalen Hurts. I'm not a Jalen Hurts guy, but will New England do that? Can you imagine if the Patriots take Jalen Hurts and you have Hurts and Tua in the same division twice a year?
That would be fascinating, actually, if it happened. And I had Hurts rated ahead of Love. I think he has shown winner's attributes. I don't think he's a superstar, but I do think you can absolutely win with him. If there were any questions about his passing ability at Alabama, he was the Heisman runner-up at Oklahoma. It's not like, square peg, round hole. Kyler Murray was not known as a thrower when he got to A&M. He was a runner. Went to Oklahoma, became a thrower. Last year, threw it pretty well. I think Hurts can succeed, and I think monitoring where he ends up in day 2, and I do think it will be in the second round, will be interesting because New England, I definitely think, is in play for him. But watch out for the Colts as well. That would be another team I'd say keep an eye on. The safeties, look, there's so many good ones. I think we're going to see 5 or 6, maybe more than that, go off the board in the second and the third round. Defensive tackle, it's not a deep group, but this is where I think you're going to start seeing them move off the board. I think you're going to continue to see wide receivers come off the board. There's just, you just look at this. There's just so much talent, and that's why,
unbelievable.
I know I talked with you at from 18 to 60 to 70. I don't think there's a huge talent gap. I think you're going to see those 10 to 20 picks. There's going to be some busts, and I think you're going to see 10 to 15 future Pro Bowlers that are selected in the second and third round. I think they're that deep. You're going to have that much success in finding players.
Yeah, I think you could argue that tomorrow is like a first round light. There's some guys. I'm looking at the board. Josh Jones of Houston clearly dropped. You look at some of these guys that have dropped, some really talented guys that dropped.
Tackle will be another position too. That
Delpit, obviously the safeties dropped. I think that's a story there. And you're right. The receivers. Do we start seeing more receivers drafted? And the running backs. Who do you think is going to be the next back that goes? Is it Swift? Is it Dobbins? Is it off the board? And then
I've been very clear about this, and there's a lot of things that are close. To me, the one thing that wasn't close in this draft is Jonathan Taylor is the best tailback. I don't care how many carries he has. I watched them, Elo. You watched them. He's the best back the rest of the guys, I like Edwards-Helaire does a lot of nice things. Swift does a lot of nice things. I don't think they are game changers, strap me up, running back one in fantasy world terms. I think Jonathan Taylor is that. Maybe his shelf life's only 5 years. So what? If you're telling me I'm going to draft a guy who's going to give me Todd Gurley production, Devontae Freeman production, name them. Like these guys that have fallen off a little bit, but you're going to get 5 years of that, I'll sign up for that right now. The guy that I'm especially keeping my eyes on that I really think has great potential, Denzel Mims, the Baylor wide receiver. That's a guy that I'm excited about if I'm a team that drafts him coming up in day 2 and day 3. All right, Elo, we'll do a complete wrap on the draft. We'll cover some other things clearly from the 2nd through the 7th rounds and kind of big picture, not necessarily grades, but I always like to say, when I've done this, and I've been doing this now for 20 years in covering the draft, Elo, I always like to say, who helped himself most going into next year? Forget about big picture. It's hard to analyze 5 years down the line, but I think we can very easily look at, all right, who drafted players that are going to help right away? And so we'll do some of that in our wrap up. But this was fun, man. This was fun. Where can people check you out and ask your opinions on all of this draft stuff going down?
Yeah, go to Eric Lopez Elo on Twitter. I'll be tweeting during the draft as well. That's where you can see a lot of the content that I do for a variety of stuff, especially Black and Gold Banneret. Obviously, as we're more than likely day 3, it's going to be a pretty busy day from our perspective because a lot of UCF guys, I think, will start going in day 3. The only one that might go in day 2 is Gabe Davis. That's kind of a reach. Maybe more than likely, though, it's round 4 to 7. So we'll be covering that in depth as well. So I'll be tweeting about that as well as the rest of this NFL draft. But Eric Lopez Elo is the place to go for everything that I'm covering. And like I said, this was fun to do. First round, I'm just glad we're doing live stuff, man. Football. It's beautiful. It's great.
Thank you guys for tuning in to listen to Elo and I Squawk. I'm Mike Tuck. You can follow me at Mike Tuck Sports on Twitter. We'll look forward to the rest of the draft like the rest of you. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, peace.